Right, today guys, I'm going to show you what to do with this, an aubergine, or known in Punjabi as a Batao. In Hindi they call it bengan. So aubergine, you probably think, what do you do with it? So I'm going to cook it very simply. There's so many things you can do this. You can char it, take the skin off, and then mush the flesh and put it into a curry. You can stuff them. Some people do stuff them. There's all sorts of things, but we're going to just cook it very simply. So we'll show you what to do with that in this curry, which uses potatoes, ginger, chilli, onions, and a selection of spices. Today I'm going to slice the onions. As you can see, I've sliced them quite thick, really. I just want a different texture. The onions generally are sliced or diced. Probably mainly they do dice them in here, but I'm going to try with sliced onions. So I'm going to slice 3 small to medium red onions. We've got 3 spuds as well, sort of medium sized, chopped them in half, and we're going to basically leave these quite chunky because they will cook down quite a lot and we want them to retain their shape. So again, you can experiment having chunkier, having smaller, but we'll leave them quite chunky. So quite, as you can see, quite a chunky piece that is. They will cook down. It takes a bit of time, so I'm going to use 3 spuds altogether. Fresh ginger we're using. Fresh ginger, about palm size. Always call it the golf ball size. This, what we cook, is for about 4 to 5 people, unless you have larger portions. So a way of peeling ginger, because ginger skin is very soft, if you use a peeler you could end up taking a lot of the nutrition out. So what we use is a spoon. Just use a spoon, and look at that, it just comes off straight off, and it just takes minimum off. So you don't need to use a peeler. It just takes a bit of time, and there you go, the skin comes off. You can actually just sort of julienne up into small little strips if you want to, but what we'll do for all the recipes that I show is we just grate it up. Grate it up, nice and easy, very simple. Remember, this is simple, easy cooking to make curries at home with whatever resources you've got. So again, there's no right or wrong. You can chop it up very finely, but chop it up quite finely if you do chop it up. We'll just grate it like I'm doing here. Chilli, 1 green chilli here. People use green or red, use chilli powder. We're just going to use just 1 fresh, because we actually eat quite mild in our household. So if you want it hot, you can have it hotter. Hot curries, I'm sure, were invented in Birmingham and not India, because the region where I come from, or where I originated from, the taste is much more milder and more subtler. So just split it in half and then chop it finely. The other day I chopped it quite roughly, and then somebody got a big bit of chilli, so chop it finely. If you're sharing it around, make sure it distributes evenly. Aubergine, sort of quite a tough skin. It stays intact, and the flesh does sort of cook down quite quickly. Take the end off, that bit, and then we're just going to go straight down the middle. Just open that up, there you go. Quite fleshy, quite soft, and we're going to dice that up very similar to the potatoes we've done. So it's going to go 3 times, make 3 sort of, it's quite small down there, but it will get quite bigger as we go along. So I'm going to try and keep it nice and chunky because it does cook down again. Very similar size to the potatoes we've done. Again, just split about 3 ways this size. It's quite a medium to large size of aubergine. We're using 2 here, and the reason we're using 2 is that's all I've got. So 3 spuds and 2 aubergines. Probably might have stuck another aubergine in, to be honest. So there you go, it's quite chunky, as you can see, quite chunky, but it will cook down, and it will complement the potato in terms of its size, hopefully. Right, using the wok again. Wok is your favourite sort of pan that you use these days, I think, for all stir fries and all cooking and curries. We call it a karai, that's what it's called. English term, they call it a balti, don't they? Balti actually, I'm sure, means dustbin, but It's been adopted by Indian curry houses but it is called a karahi. So basically the oil's gone in there, and again, as you can see, just enough oil at the bottom which will coat the onions. Because they're sliced, it's going to add a little bit more in there, and just heat the oil up, very important, get that to a nice hot temperature. You can use other spices in this. We're using quite fresh ginger, fresh chilli, and we're using your basic salt, garam masala and turmeric. People use ground ginger, you can, again, you know, prefer to use nice fresh ingredients. Curry powder is very popular, so again that goes in. That's just, you know, sort of a mixture of the curry leaves, I'm sure, but we don't use it often, to be honest, in our cooking. Chili flakes is another option. If you haven't got fresh green chilies, just throw some of these in, or obviously chili powder or cayenne pepper maybe, that's quite hot and quite popular, but we're keeping it basic and simple for you. So the oil now should be nice and hot. The one who enters the oil first every time is cumin. Why? You better do your research, but this is how it goes. So we're going to use a couple of teaspoons of cumin. Straight away start bubbling. Can you see they're bubbling straight away? Start cooking in the oil. A couple of teaspoons of cumin, and just use and just let them fry, because that's what they're doing in that oil. You can see it's quite a bit of oil in there, but we are using 3 sliced onions, so we'll just let them cook, and they'll change into a slightly different colour. So yeah, there's quite a bit of oil in there. Let the cumin just cook in there for a couple of minutes. What we're going to put is in the onions. Again, we would use diced, we'd probably use white, but we're going to do it a bit different. We've used red onions, a little bit of a sweeter taste, but I've sliced them up. I've sliced them quite big, because it is quite a chunky dish we're doing, hopefully. Let's see how it turns out. So in go just the onions, and not the ginger and the chilli, just the onions on their own. I'm in with the onions. What I'm going to do is going to throw in the salt straight away. So again, normal sort of salt for our family is usually 1 and about half. Add a little bit less in, and you can always salt at the end if you think it needs a bit more. And so we're going to let that fry away straight away. They're sizzling because the oil is hot. Some people will throw everything in when the oil's not hot, so you're just wasting valuable energy and time. So get the oil nice and hot, and so it starts cooking as you start throwing your ingredients in. So we're going to let them cook down and just lose their rigid shape a little bit. Most importantly, just make sure you keep the flame at a medium size, so you don't want too much heat and overdoing it and start sticking to the bottom. Quite a bit of oil in there, but it will all burn away very quickly if the heat is on high, so give them a bit of time to cook at a nice low to medium heat. The onions have been cooking for about just under 5 minutes, probably need a few more minutes. As you can see, they're getting very soft and a little bit translucent. That's what you're looking at. You just sort of start seeing through the onions. Right, what we're going to do at this time, as they're cooking down, we're going to add in and fold in the ginger and the chilli. So in that goes. Again, the grated ginger, sorry, I use the thick side of the grater today. Made it a little bit thicker, and I'm just doing everything a little bit more chunkier than I would normally do with the other vegetable curries. Vegetable curry is an English term. Obviously we call it sabji or sabzi, as sometimes it's spelt on recipes. So we're just going to fold all of that in and just bring the onions, combine them with the ginger, and all the smells are coming through. Another thing people throw in is garlic. Again, we sometimes use it, sometimes don't. We haven't got it, so we're not using it. You can throw in, you know, a small clove of garlic, crush it up and throw it in there as well. Try and use as many fresh ingredients as you can. Okay, in there we're going to throw, as this ginger and chilli has combined with those onions, we're going to throw the turmeric in, the king of spice. I'm going to do it at this stage. Again, I'm going to throw in, I always throw in a couple of spoons, you know, it's the king of spices, as I always say. Very, very good for your system. Just Google turmeric. Everyone's using it now. Indians have used it for centuries. So that goes in there, and as I combine that in straight away, it takes that old gold Wolverhampton Wanderers colour. That's what you're looking for. Try not to let it stick. It's not sticking at the moment. The heat isn't overpowering it. So I'm going to throw some tomatoes in again. Use big tomatoes, cherry, plum tomatoes. I'm using really small plum tomatoes. Just chop them up, and there's about 7 or 8 of them. If you're using big tomatoes, 1 will do, to be honest, and that will just combine in with all those smells. The only thing we haven't added in is the garam masala. We leave that till the end. Masala cooks very quickly, and it does stick to the bottom of the pan, so we leave that till the end, nearer the end, as we enter with our first main ingredient. That's cooked down. The tomatoes have cooked down with the onions and the ginger and the chilli and all the spices. It's not sticking. If it does stick, remember, a drop of water, very slight drop of water, let it just coat the bottom of the pan. It will just lift everything off again. But it's not sticking, and we're keeping a close eye on it. So we're going to go in with the potatoes. And before I fold them in, I'm going to throw in garam masala. I always call it masala. It's garam masala. People have their own masala mixes, their special home masala mixes, but we'll just use 1 and about a half. Now what we're going to do is going to just stir all of that in. The potatoes take the longest to cook, so they go in first. As you can see, they're quite chunky. Straight away they change colour. The turmeric, if you ever get it on your fingers, you'll find out. It does give out a wonderful golden yellow colour. So just fold all of those spices in. Make sure everything's coated evenly. We can be quite rough with it at the moment because the potatoes are obviously hard and just gone in fresh. Now we've stirred all the spices into the potatoes. We're going to let them cook down for a bit, so just keep coming back to the pan, keep checking, make sure they don't stick, give them a stir, and you'll just will know when they're cooked. It does take a few minutes, so we're going to come back to this. I'm going to now just cover it with the lid and let them cook in their own steam. We're going to check on those potatoes, see how they're doing. As you can see, they're cooking away. Make sure you lift them off the bottom to make sure it doesn't stick. If it does stick, just scrape the bottom of the pan, and then if you need to, just put a bit of water in just to bring the spices off the bottom. These will take 5 to 10 minutes because they are quite chunky. Probably, you know, the longer time, probably a good 10 minutes of cooking, but you don't want to turn them into mush, so you just keep your eyes on what you're doing. Check on them. I've been coming back regularly to these, and what I've done is I've added a few drops of water at the bottom just to lift the spices off the bottom, because they will sort of cook and stick to the bottom. It's fairly normal. I have kept the gas at a very low, but we have to cook these. They are slightly chunkier, so they've took a bit longer to cook, but they are ready, virtually fully cooked. So we're going to add in the Batao, the bengan, or the aubergine as we call it, with the skin. Everything goes in, and we're just going to fold that in. Oh, one left. Just going to fold it in with all the spices and the potatoes. Just take a bit of time. It's quite a big portion. This is only 2 aubergines and 3 potatoes. The potatoes were medium sized, so again, this will feed. You've got a house of 4 or 5 people, it'll feed you quite easily, and hopefully have a bit of leftover as well. Straight away, the colour, the turmeric does its magic and gives you that wonderful golden colour. And we're just going to let that, once it's mixed in, let it just cook. Really turn the gas down very low, and just folded those potatoes are just sort of on the verge of being fully cooked. The aubergine won't take that long, but we're going to leave it covered and let it cook nice and slowly. These have been cooking at very, very low heat, slow cooking, and I'm just folding them in. As you can probably see, the skin starts to curl a little bit, and the underside of the aubergine starts to get nice and soft, and they do shrink in size a little bit. That's why I did cook them quite big. The potatoes again are still retaining their shape, but just beginning to get a little bit mushy, but I'm going to try and keep the shape as much as possible. There you go. So we're just going to give them another 2 or 3 minutes and that should be ready. Right, here we go. It's all done, I think, now. The potatoes are sort of cooked anyway, and the aubergine is starting to sort of wilt down beyond its shape that it was, so that's ready, that is to serve. So in Punjabi we traditionally use steel dishes, so we'll serve that in straight off the heat. Very traditional also to eat straight off the heat, chapatis and food, to have it straight as it's cooked, so that'll be served. And there you have aloo, potato, and batao, aubergine. Potato and aubergine chunky style.